Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone podcast. My name is Kathy. We are awaiting a filing under seal by the State of Idaho concerning the state's calling of Brian C. Kohberger's family members as trial witnesses at the upcoming case in chief, which is scheduled to commence August 11th, 2025. The court order on motion in limine regarding family members in the courtroom is quite the interesting one, because what it started out as being the February 21st, 2025 in limine motion concerning the victim's family members and their right by statute and also the Idaho Constitution to be in the courtroom irrespective of when or if they may be called as witnesses at the trial. What it turned out to be was the defense, in their response to this in limine motion, also wanted the same consideration for Mr. Kohberger's family members. In this order, it says here that while the court is sensitive to the state's concerns about allowing testifying witnesses to be present during trial, that's the Kohberger family, the court is also sensitive to the fact that this is anticipated to be a lengthy trial and that defendant would like the support of his family. And there's a footnote. In addition, the court understands and empathizes with the concerns that parents themselves, having done nothing wrong, would have, and the trauma they would endure because of a child being accused of and tried for a capital homicide, and their desire to be present for that child. The order goes on to say, further, the scope of his family member's testimony is likely going to be limited, and in an effort to reach a solution that upholds the rights of both parties, the court will require the state to submit for an ex parte in camera. This means for Judge Hippler's eyes only, a list of the Kohberger family members the state intends to call at trial and the purpose for calling each of them. The state must also identify why each family member cannot be called very early in the case in chief and articulate why exclusion of the family member is necessary, particularly given the unprecedented publicity of this case, which is much of the evidence available to those who wish to know, including the proposed Kohberger family witnesses. And then finally, the state must submit these materials no later than April 25th. The court will provide the parties with its decision at or before the pretrial conference on May 15th. So basically, what's happened here is Judge Hippler has ordered the state to provide these materials on or before this Friday, which is the 25th, ex parte, the court's eyes only, and then the court's going to make some type of a decision at or before this final pretrial conference, which is really turning out to be quite the precedent in the case, because there's a lot of things that will be happening at that time, including discussion of Mr. Kohberger's alternate perpetrators that he has to submit the day before that final pretrial conference, and other things that they ordinarily discuss at the final pretrial conference, which is basically, are you ready for trial? Is there anything in the world that the court needs to know to help facilitate matters to ensure that everything's on the road toward trial? The witness list for lay witnesses for both sides have already been filed under seal, and presumably the Kohberger family's names are on there. Now, because they reside in Pennsylvania, they are outside the reach of either a sheriff or a process server serving a trial subpoena on them because they're in another state. That would change if and when they were able to serve them at the time of trial. But the question now becomes, is the state going to wait until trial to serve them, or going to try to serve them before? Because they're out of state, they would have to basically open up a lawsuit in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to domesticate that subpoena and have them served. So that may be when we find out a little bit more as to what it is that the state is seeking to have the family members called as their witnesses. This is state's witnesses, not defense witnesses. We're going to continue to monitor the situation. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thanks for joining us here today.